Welcome to the Trailer Island podcast. It's another episode. It's another Wednesday. How are we all doing?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
So well.
That's very good because I enjoyed this movie that we're going to talk about today.
Me too. Yes.
You know what? I love you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Love. As we all know, you're all monsters as well.
Yes. I see what you totally just did not even, that wasn't even subtle.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Alex and I'm joined as I am every week by
Matthew.
Steve.
And we are the Trailer Island podcast. We compare films to their trailers. Did the film deliver what the trailer promised? And this one, compared to last week, this was an easy watch. Would we agree?
It's a very, very easy watch, but a pleasant watch.
It's probably the easiest watch I've had in quite a long time.
Oh.
Maybe for the podcast as well.
Interesting.
Is it as easy as it was for Matthew to purchase his new watch? Because that thing...
They didn't.
That watch that you've got is seriously...
Yeah, they didn't need... So I ordered this online from the island internet, and they didn't need to deliver it to me. They just basically rolled it down a hill, and it found its way to me because it's so big.
Yeah. I know we're in a completely non-visual medium.
Yeah.
Being a
hey,
podcast.
everyone, look at my watch.
Man had to buy a dishwasher with his watch.
That's literally his dinner plate is on his wrist.
Yeah.
Please never, ever make that noise again.
Okay. No promises.
One more time.
Well, actually, this movie we're talking about does have a good amount of practical, goos and bloods and
I wasn't sure about that.
animatronic monsters and stuff.
At the start it does. But
Yeah,
I think
it does get more CGI as it goes on.
As it goes on. And then that's fine. Anyway, who wants to introduce the film this week?
Me, please, because...
it was your suggestion, wasn't it?
No, this is a request from another one from my brother Lee. I did actually watch... I also very much like this
You should have
film.
told me because now I don't know that it was a request from your brother, which I could specifically then do a thing about...
From Essex.
Where he's from.
He's from Borderguster as well, so don't worry.
do you know anything about Essex that you could do?
No, that's why I needed time to prepare.
Sorry. Oh, he's upset now. What are we going to do? How do we
introduce the film?
Tickle Monster?
All right. We are doing the new film Love and Monsters.
Don't move.
Let me see it.
Don't move. Amy.
Let me see it.
Okay. Ready?
I love it.
That's super sweet because it's terrible.
Oh
my God.
Where have you been, Joel?
Amy, I love you. I'm going to come find you. The day of the monster uprising was the day I lost everyone. Only a small fraction of humanity survived and moved underground. I've been scanning for Amy the entire time. And now I finally found her.
Joel.
Hey.
Joel.
Amy, is that you?
Oh, my God.
Hey. How far away is Amy's colony?
85 miles. It's an impossible journey. Everyone will try to kill you. Don't fight. Just run and hide.
Okay.
You really got me going. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing.
You all alone? Me too. You don't have to talk about it.
You got me now.
You want to come with me?
So I can't sleep at night.
Look out! Is that a samurai sword?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. Listen to your instincts out here, man.
What if I have terrible instincts?
You'll die.
Super encouraging speech.
You made it all this way for a girl, huh? You ever hear the term fool's errand?
No.
Amy, I miss you so much.
We have lost this war.
We could still take our world back.
You're more of a survivor than I thought.
Oh, that was awesome. Oh, I feel like Tom Cruise.
I'm just going to say this from the get-go. I think the movie is much better than that trailer suggests.
Trailer's all right, though.
The trailer is all right, but I think there's a legitimate heart to this movie.
Yeah.
For what it is, that trailer doesn't actually convey. And I think that's great because the trailer is good. And then you watch the movie, and if you guys, I don't know if you felt the same way as me, but I was pleasantly surprised at just how good this film was.
There are a lot of payoffs. Like
Yeah.
there is a lot going on in this movie. For, even though it's sort of a fun adventure, post-apocalyptic.
Indiana
love
Jones comes to
stories.
mind for me.
Didn't come to mind for me, but that's okay. The trailer is a bit misleading.
It is.
Because it implies that he has, it's about him searching for this girl that he used to know. In the film, he already knows where she is.
Yeah, well, he knows exactly where he's going.
Well, in the trailer, they come out and say she's 85 miles away.
True.
Yeah, but the trailer says he's been trying to search for her on these radio frequencies, where in fact in the film itself, he's already been talking to her.
Oh, right.
But his catalyst for going and finding her is more fleshed out in the film.
It is,
of course, rather than it's about him just working out where she is and he's going to go. In the film, he knows where she is, but he's got problems.
I also want to say that motivation for getting him out of the bunker, I love that. I thought it was great. For him to go, well, I'm not really contributing to the team here at all. I'm cooking minestrone and looking after the cow. I'm just going to go. I thought it was great.
And I think this film, like in that moment you suggest, it's got a really good comedy to it.
Yeah.
It's a very endearing comedy. It's not like a Deadpool kind of in your face comedy, but it's a bit kind of I guess I've already said it. Endearing is probably the best word for it for me.
This film could absolutely have played out as a horror.
Oh yeah.
One of those just everything is against you. It's a monster film, but this is done in a really nice way that's just fun. It's enjoyable. You really sort of feel for this main guy who he is very flawed.
He's rubbish at basically surviving.
Mm-hmm. And all of those scenes could almost played out exactly as they did if edited and scored differently, and it would be a horror film. But for whatever reason, we're smiling through this.
It's not a horror film, it's a road movie.
It's a road movie.
Yeah,
That's what it is. Yeah.
It's a boy, and it's not his dog, but he finds a dog very early on in the film.
Who's a dog?
And
a very good dog.
And it's him and the dog, and they meet a few friends on the way and a few adversaries on the way, and it's a romp.
The closest thing I've got to compare this to is Zombieland. This hit on a lot of the Zombieland beats, and not just in terms of like the road movie itself. It's also got the relationship sort of character arc there as well. Yeah, I got a lot of Zombieland out of this.
I think that there are a lot of films that this was pulling from, and it did it quite well. Like the start of it gave me it felt a bit Men in Black.
Yeah.
It's like you're discovering this world for the first time. And I really enjoyed the story that this was telling. I don't know if it's based on a book or a comic, is it?
I don't know.
Apparently not.
Okay.
Apparently not. I think it's just been sort of a screenplay that's been floating around for almost 10 years, sort of been production hell, blacklist sort of thing, and it really found its feet in 2018.
Well, should we talk about what the story is actually about? Because we have our main character, Joel, and Joel is trying to find Amy. Mm-hmm. And now they were in California, and they were...
It's not California.
Isn't it?
Oh, no, it's set in California, but it's been shot in Brisbane, Australia.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to talk about that later because
We'll get to that.
The shot of in the trailer of they're in a suburban California street, I'm like, that's Australia.
It does not look like anywhere other than Australia.
Well, okay. We're talking about the story.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
the story is that they live in California, and there's a big meteor. And it's, this is very Lord of the Rings. The prologue is exactly how Lord of the Rings tells its story.
Sure, yeah.
Matthew, just roll with me here, okay?
All right.
Because it's telling you a little story at the start to get you catch you up with what's going on. It does it through his sketchbook of sorts, doesn't it?
Which is nice. I like his little sort of artist thing.
And a meteorite is coming to Earth, and Earth is like, oh, no, you're not going to get us with that meteorite. Because we're all New Zealand.
Sure.
We're all Korg, yeah.
We're all Korg now.
Why not?
And they're like, okay, we're going to shoot some big old ballistic missiles up at this thing. And they've used some sort of really dodgy chemical to make it work, and they've stopped the meteorite. But all those chemicals have now come down on Earth and turned all our little bug friends into big, giant, scary monsters. And
I love that premise.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
First 5 minutes, I thought, this is a movie that if they do it right, I'm going to like it.
Yeah, and Joel was like, we're what, 5, 6, 7 years later?
Yeah.
The main part of the film is set, and we're introduced to him, and there are these pockets of survivors that have gone underground. They're talking about 95% of the planet's population has been decimated.
Yeah, by these big insects. And also, apparently, the chemicals also affected humans.
Okay.
And so a lot of people also suffered. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a comedy. This sounds a lot heavier. This sounds a lot heavier than the movie actually is.
Again, why it could have played out as a horror.
It could. And I think if they played this as a straight horror, they would have actually been doing themselves a disservice because that...
Yeah.
This is I just realised this is very 28 Days Later
Yeah,
as well. So, that's probably the other extreme of an example. Like, I find it difficult to imagine that as a comedy. But we can always dream. And so Joel. And he is in one of these colonies with about a dozen people. And he, as Steve mentioned earlier, he realizes that he's kind of useless because he can't fight monsters.
Yeah.
He's like, guys, I don't do anything here to help you. I'm going to go and try and find Amy, who is 85 miles away through the California hillsides.
Yeah.
You say that as with air quotes as he walks through forests of gum trees.
Yes,
Yeah.
very Australian fauna.
Which actually, I think are actually quite common in California. But anyway.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
they
interesting.
imported them and they're everywhere.
How about that?
And quite responsible for a lot of their bushfires.
So we've set up that premise, which is great. And then, like you say, if you take that premise, easily could be a straight horror movie.
Yeah.
But then the film does not take very long in subverting that, in providing you with a main character who is not... In fact, it's in the trailer. He says he feels like Tom Cruise. I love that line because he is not Tom Cruise. He's so useless. And I love his clumsiness. He can't aim. He can't do anything. And that makes such just a fun character, especially when you have people who are not being nasty to him, but they are going... Like the people he's with who do care about him, and he's saying, I'm going to go out there like, Joe... Maybe not. But he's sort of a bit clueless as to... He's not quite accepting, I think, his flaws. He's going, no, I can do it.
Yeah.
I think what helps that is Dylan O'Brien.
Yeah.
Who, I watched him in the Maze Runner and Scorched Trials, and I was like, this guy is so forgettable. So forgettable. Like, I don't remember a word he said.
Harsh.
Him in this is great, playing the awkward guy, doing the real sort of everyman character.
Yeah.
It actually works for him.
It does, but he also has that. What I like about this film is he also narrates it a fair bit, and he narrates it over sequences like throughout the movie, and so you sort of get what's happening inside his head, but it's also you get from context that this narration is happening in the future, shall we say? Like he's looking back. It's almost like he's telling you the story, and so there are these great moments where the film is edited quite well, where he's like freezing, or because he freezes up in moments of danger. He says, "Oh, I've got a pretty serious freezing thing," and to me, it was just those little subtle things, like the fact that the voiceover interacts with what he's doing in the current scene, plus the cutting around that. Elevates what could have been actually a fairly forgettable movie, elevates it into a higher class of filmmaking for me.
Well, his character being, I guess he starts off being so useless, the story is that he can overcome that. He can grow as a person.
That's right.
And because he's made so likable, we want to see that journey. And I guess the film could have subverted that even further if he just didn't grow and was just carried by everyone.
Yeah.
But in this case, he's required to. And it's shown in the trailer as well that he starts to become... maybe lucky with some of the things that he gets away with.
Yeah.
But he needs a lot of help to get there, whether it be the dog that he finds or the people along the way. Like he's joined by Michael Rooker.
Yeah.
I can't remember his character's name, and the young girl as well. And like this young girl who's probably 5 or 6 years old is so much more useful than he is.
A survival expert at like 6 or 7 years old. Yeah.
And I guess they have to be because they've decided to live above ground, whereas that's where all the monsters are. And that's used as a good way to introduce us to the types of monsters that there are too, because it turns out not all of them want to eat you. They're all still very dangerous.
Yes.
But it also gives you a clue into callbacks to these scenes that happen that help things along the way. And that's where I have a little bit of a problem.
Oh, here we go.
Is that the film, I don't think, drives home enough some of the information that we're given. And the consequence of that is that it feels the need to remind the audience quite blatantly and in your face by characters either repeating lines or they hear lines again in their head. They go, hey, audience, just remember this thing.
Yeah.
And you go, well,
Of course we do.
okay, yes, we all right.
It's not a long movie. It's like 100 minutes, I think. From memory.
and it didn't need to be any longer than that, but I feel like the way that it integrated some of those story ideas into it, it didn't trust the audience enough to go,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. We know that you understand what's going on
And
here.
that's-
They sort of go, no, actually, remember this thing? This is what's going on here because the guy said that earlier.
And that's potentially my only I absolutely agree with you. It's potentially my only issue with this film is that because it's twofold. Like you say, it could have done more work throughout the body of the film to show and not tell those things that it's doing. But as a result of not quite succeeding there, the ending of this movie feels a little forced. And I think because you don't see enough examples of what, I'm not going to spoil it, but you don't see enough examples of what the end of this film is throughout the rest of the movie to believe that certain characters would make certain choices, shall we say.
I understand what you're saying, but for me, that the ending came together really well for me.
Oh, it's still good.
I thought it was a very, very. It's a very satisfying character journey for what's his name?
Joel.
Joel. Also, don't call your post-apocalyptic character Joel. I was thinking of The Last of Us the whole way through.
Oh, see, I haven't played Last of Us, so I didn't make that connection.
I thought that tied up really, really neatly. If I was teaching, this would be a film I would give to students and say, look, this is what you're supposed to do with characters. This is how you set up one theme. This is how you set up a second theme, and this is how it all ties together.
Without being too complex.
Yeah.
Because that ending is it's been done, I don't know, in every other film that's like this. There's nothing new. There's nothing revolutionary about this. Like,
No.
The ending happened and said, oh, that happens in Frozen. There are actually so many films that I thought about along the way watching this film, and that didn't take me out of it at all.
And
I enjoyed it.
And I think that's the terrific thing about it is it knows what it is, and it's just there is a lot of CGI, and I should say the CGI is for the most part really good.
Nope.
Oh, I thought the monsters looked great.
Nope.
Okay, well,
I could really tell when you put practical effects in there.
Well, this is my point, though, is they're at the very beginning when they're still in the bunker, they have a breach of a giant ant gets in, and that is an animatronic puppet. It's got like oozing,
I love it.
like dripping stuff.
So good. I wanted more of it.
And it looked so good. And it's a shame that they didn't do more real life sort of puppetry.
Yeah.
Again, much like Jurassic Park in this film, because again, love the whole movie, but that monster, when we're talking about the monsters elements in a Love and Monsters film, that first monster's the best one because it looks real.
Was the frog in the pool?
That's CG.
I feel like some of that was practical though. The way they were getting the waves really sort of.
Okay.
I mean, I would believe that. It would
the
be,
eye stalks.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, sure.
That
sure.
even the puppet at large as well. I feel like some of that must have been practical. If it really was all CGI, I would go, that's fantastic. But I feel like there was some of those puppets. Definitely.
Yeah. There's a great bit where he falls into a nest of worms or something that try and get him, and a character comes along and helps him and blows up some of these worms. And you know that the bits of flesh that are falling on him and the remains of these worms are practical things that have got electronics in them, so like their tentacles or whatever they are still like move.
Twitch and stuff.
And it looks so good.
If this was a David Fincher film, would that have been CGI?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would have been better CGI. I personally don't mind the CG look in this movie.
No.
There's a lot of it, and I'm not saying it's like it looks real, but I think I accept it for what it is and go, I believe that is what it's meant to be.
There are certain moments though where I shouldn't be noticing it.
The end is a bit different. The end, especially with there's a boat involved.
Well, not even that. It's wide shots of Joel traversing the country, and they're putting in like CG burnt out tanks and all that.
Oh yeah,
and you can actually see it sort of this rotoscoping effect around Joel and bad lighting sort of hitting him as opposed to the landscape.
Okay, I hadn't.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying you're wrong. I hadn't noticed that myself.
No, I hadn't cared enough to notice that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think the scene with the land shark worm thing, I'm going to call it, like we've got that big close up where he's hiding in the stump, which appears in the trailer. that was probably, I was like, okay, that CGI is a bit rough, but I didn't care.
Yes, I agree.
I
This
did
film,
not care at all. And then you get the moment that's in the trailer with the exploding grenade. I was like, that looks amazing.
yeah, it's really cool.
That looks
and
so
And it
cool.
comes back to that word, and it's going to be my word of this episode, which is endearing. When a film is this endearing and you're so on board, you can forgive it for these little trespasses, perhaps, of...
And then when he jumps into the river, we get the Stand By Me with the leeches.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh,
See,
leeches.
So
Yeah.
many films
yeah.
call back to.
Yeah. So it's... Yeah, it just how much fun is this film? It's great.
I wasn't sure what you were referring to there, but whether you were referring to the movie or the song, because they played the song in the movie as well.
That is something else that I want to talk about. No, I was referring to the film.
Ah.
But there is this beautiful little sub-story with these robots
I
that
love
apparently
it.
have existed called the Mavis robot. And I'm so sad
I love that
and
sequence.
disappointed that he didn't strap her to his back or something. and
yeah.
take
3PO, yeah, okay.
3PO. So Mavis is these robots, apparently these quite very advanced, empathetic servant robots that exist.
I love their voices. That's so good.
And we get probably one of the best scenes that I've seen in a film in a long time with the use of music. I mean, yes, it's very easy to use a classic piece of music to make you feel something. I was like, this is really nice. They have a moment just to sit down together and just a moment of peace together between him and this robot.
And they're looking at, I think, are they sky jellies? Is that what
Sky
she
Airborne jellyfish, yeah.
Oh, that is such a lovely... And again, another one of these moments where the film is showing you that this shall we say, what's the word? Mutation of these animals hasn't resulted in them. You know, what I loved about the very first Jurassic Park film, the others have moved away from it slightly, is the idea that these aren't monsters, they are animals. Like, they're not all just going to thirst for man flesh. I mean, yes, the velociraptors seem to hunt everyone like they're in an alien film, but you know, they're all animals. And this film, to a certain degree, does the same thing where it shows you these more benevolent monsters. And there's this wonderful moment with these sky jellies. It looks great, and you love this Mavis robot and his scene with her, and the way I love the way he interacts with people in this. I don't know how to describe it, but he seems to sort of... It's almost like he's constantly just so used to talking to himself that he's not self-conscious in a way. He's just completely open all the time.
Is he an example of humanity and perhaps more of its purest form, something that's missing from this post-apocalyptic
innocent,
world?
that's the word. He's innocent.
Innocence.
He is very innocent, and not in a bad way, like not in a way that makes him sort of unbearable, because he's obviously aware of what's going on in the world, but he's doing it inside. He's so cheerful and chipper.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which is so surprising, given the film does a really good job of explaining his trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like very blatantly. I mean, it's in the trailer. We see what happens to his parents, but you're just like that actor that plays Joel. He just had such an emotive face. Whether they just like sprayed him with onions quickly before shots, because he does sad very well.
He does do sad very well. And he does sad very well in the third Maze Runner film. So maybe you should watch that one, Steve.
That's because he was sad the whole time.
Again, you're saying like there's a lot going on, and there is, like, for what could be a very simple film. We see at the beginning his girlfriend, before everything goes wrong, gives him some pencils because he's trying to draw. And he is an artist, and you see some of the stuff he's done later in the film. It's really good, but you also see those pencils that he's still got, and they're like down to stubs.
Yeah, and
it's great. It's really cool.
I think there's a lot of effort went into the detail of some of these things, because we see at the start like the people who are part of their clan who have passed or have been killed, and you see a picture, like you think, okay, there's just some random pictures, but there's effort gone into it when we see him being rescued when everything hits the fan before as the apocalypse is happening.
Oh, yes.
And one of the people pulling him away is someone that we've seen earlier who's now passed away on this picture wall.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? There is a lot of effort going into this. And
absolutely.
Is this an Australian film? No. Okay.
No,
but
it was shot in Brisbane.
It was shot in Australia. But did that take us out of it at all? Because I mean, this is Australia.
The suburban stuff, I was like, yep.
When they're in the streets, when everyone's like panicking because the apocalypse is happening. Again, I think maybe because we've grown up here, but we just know what Australian streets look like, even in a different state from where we are. Like, that's just an Australian house. Like, how could it be anywhere else?
Yeah.
But the forest stuff, even though there are gum trees and that kind of thing, I could believe that was not Australia. I feel like they did that well enough. Yeah,
sure.
As soon as they started doing forest stuff, I was like, we're going to see Kaipo.
As we did in Mortal Kombat.
Is that shot in Kaipo?
I think in near that area.
Okay.
Prologue stuff.
Yeah.
The early stuff.
This is only for people who live in South Australia now.
Yeah, even though we're stuck on an island.
Yes.
Specifically.
How about that north-south corridor?
That is a niche Adelaide reference,
Yeah.
Steve.
Not even people in Plimpton would know what that is.
Oh, it keeps going.
You're ostracising our audience who are not from South Australia.
Are they from? No. I was going to say I just enjoyed the fact that there wasn't world stakes. I think that's
There wasn't what stakes?
world stakes.
World stakes.
Yeah.
So the world wasn't in threat here.
That's right, and I think that's the benefit with post-apocalyptic stories is that the world is never at stake. It's always, I think people are finally getting the grasp that you can use these apocalyptic settings to really tell some good character stories. Like I mentioned Zombieland, that's a great film.
Yeah.
Warm Bodies is another really good film as well.
I haven't seen it. I have heard it's
That's
very good.
very enjoyable.
Right, yeah.
Really like this.
I
harmless.
I do have a question for the both of you because we see in this film he's making a book of all the monsters he encounters, and he's called it Volume 1 in a very Guardians of the Galaxy way.
Yes.
So they could make a sequel. Do we think that a sequel would ruin this movie? Would we like to see more?
I think there's a lot of scope for expansion into this because
Yeah.
now he's a bit more capable.
Yeah.
He's not entirely capable. I don't think he's the best monster fighter that ever lived when it comes to the end of this film.
No.
Because there are a couple of leadings, like the dog has this obsession with this red dress that belonged to his former master, but that's not resolved.
I
I've
always
not
just
seen the sequel yet. They recast him as Eddie Redmayne. And the sequel's actually called Fantastic Beasts and When to Find Them.
say he's trying comedy.
I giggled a little bit in my belly.
The power of editing may come full swing into this segment. But you know what, Steve? I'm going to leave that in just so you can listen to it back.
I think people just need to know.
And everyone who listens to this podcast knows what it's like to deal with you on a weekly basis.
I just want everyone to know that Alex Plisco has been making me look good for about almost a year.
It all comes crumbling down now, doesn't it?
It was going to have to.
Yes.
I think, look, I'd love to see a sequel to this, but I think, like you say, Steve, it's this first film, its strongest elements are the fact that it's focused on Joel's character and his journey. I think that's fair to say that it is. It's his movie. And I think if they made a sequel, they've introduced these other characters. Let's not try and, I suppose, lose sight of the charm and the invitation into someone's life who's just trying to deal with stuff as best they can, even though they're not suited to it.
Yeah, I mean, so because we've got the two people that helped me along the way, which are Minnow and Clyde.
Yes.
They're the older guy and the younger girl. It's heavily implied at the end that they would be involved in a sequel, and it would be a different scene. What the stakes would be, I don't know.
I don't know. I enjoyed the film, but I don't know if I care enough to pursue a sequel.
I'm going to guess right now that we're going to get a How to Train Your Dragon-esque thing where there's a big bug. And they're going to tame some
big
of
bug.
the... No. They're going to tame some of the friendly bugs, and they're going to get saddles, and they're going to ride them on a journey to go somewhere and try and destroy this big bug.
You see, considering how fun this movie is, ordinarily, if someone pitched that to me, like, do you want to watch this movie? I'd throw up all over myself. But considering how endearing this world is, I reckon I'd watch that.
Yeah.
I reckon, I'd watch that. If it can maintain that charm that this first one has, I'd be in for that.
Are you looking at me?
We're all looking at you. I don't know why.
I don't really... honestly don't have much to say about this film. I just thought it was fun.
Yeah. It's good to have a fun movie.
I don't think it's going to change the world. I thought it was a genuine surprise. I really did not expect anything from this film. I thought it was going to be some direct to Netflix for a reason.
Well,
I was very much...
we should state, here in Australia, you can watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
It did have a cinema release in the States last year, originally made by Paramount. So it's not technically direct to Netflix.
Yes, Steve.
That's what I felt like. I don't want to disparage. It's a pleasant surprise, and it's not a bad film.
I don't know why I'm getting worked up. You are saying you liked it.
But I don't care enough about it, maybe.
I don't think the film really...
cares about your opinion, Steve.
I think
that's not where I was going.
I would say this premise was done better in Zombieland.
Zombieland is good.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's going to dispute that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this, but I mean, I personally,
What is his journey in Zombieland? What is he trying to do? Just survive?
He tries to become a little bit more casual. At the beginning of that film, he's got the list of rules, right, which is also touched on in this film as well.
yeah.
But by the end of the film, he starts to sort of, loosen up a little bit. And he's starts to get off the rules a little bit more.
But is there a grand overarching story? Like he's trying to get somewhere? I don't remember that. It's just surviving, isn't
Trying to get to California to survive, I thought.
It's been a while since I've seen Zombieland, but I would suggest that the films aren't perfectly comparable because Zombieland is an MA15 plus film. It's trying for a different audience. They are both comedies for pretty much. They're just apocalypse comedies, but that this film is much more. I hate the phrase youth adult film, but I think it is pitched towards the kind of 15-year-old or families who would go and see this.
I think a family could see this.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we're adults and we had a blast. I think it's fair to say. So I think it would work for. How young would you let a person be to see this? Do you reckon? Because there are scary bits.
Maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah, I reckon that'd be the limit.
Not much younger than that.
Whereas Zombieland, I would suggest you'd have to be.
Well, you're 15.
It's very gory.
15, a lot of blood.
The trope of a lot of these films is that there is always this haven. That apparently, there's word of this haven that's safe for everybody to go to. Part of me, there's a bit of suspension of disbelief that the army couldn't handle what was going on, given on one-to-one combat, most people are able to deal with these giant, scary monsters. Obviously, there's something else that we're missing.
Yeah.
That the world's military couldn't defeat. You know what I mean?
Oh, I get your point. Yeah.
So,
I mean, Joel takes a few out with just a crossbow in the end, and he's useless.
Yeah.
So a tank would. No, I mean, again, it's suspension of disbelief, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, look, what a perfect time to wrap up. What are we going to out of 5 watts? Bug eyes, leeches, cows, milked cows, silos,
Minestrones.
I think minestrone. I like minestrones.
Oh, I do like a good minestrone.
Yeah.
Nice beef minestrone.
Actually, I have one question about this film. It never actually answers the question as to whether he did make a good minestrone or if that was just him being an unreliable narrator.
Important plot point as well.
Very important plot point.
Well,
one of my favorite running jokes is every time he meets a new group of people, they go, "Oh, what are you doing out here? Did you steal food?" It's like, no, I didn't steal food. Why does everyone think I'm a food stealer?
even that pays off.
And it does
And
pay
that
off.
pays off
Yeah,
too.
it's great. Anyway, the comedy is so
There
lovely.
are a lot of questions and there are a lot of answers in this
Yes.
film. There are a lot of things that are set up and they pay off, which is just nice.
Unlike the minestrone thing.
Well, I think
It does actually.
Even there, they do because they appreciate him for what, even though it may not be much, they appreciate him for what he does actually do.
Yeah, that's right,
Which is
yeah.
important to them.
They legitimately, they don't want him to go.
Yeah,
They are looking out.
They are
looking
genuinely
after him.
concerned for him, even though they're to his face. You are useless at fighting. That is why we don't want you to go. And he has this, and
Anyway.
so begins the journey. But
Yeah.
go watch this movie.
Yeah.
So, out of Minestrones, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Give it 2.5.
Oh
No.
Surprising.
No, 3.
Yeah.
Okay, better.
3. I very much enjoyed it. I again pleasantly surprised. Wouldn't go back and rewatch it though.
Okay.
I'd it's Dylan O'Brien. A very pleasant surprise. Some of the CGI looks bad. The puppetry looks excellent. That gives it a lot more character, I feel like. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
That's fair enough. Again, it's like you say, it's a pretty harmless movie.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, all the better for that. Going back to the trailer, this film, that trailer is perfect, I would suggest. It really gives you that. You know what the film's going to be from that. So that was great. So I still didn't think the film was going to be as good as it is, though. I was so genuinely surprised at how not average it was. I really think it's a legitimately good film. I really loved it, and I've seen it a few times. I'm going to give it 4.5.
Oh.
I really, really enjoy a good adventure monster film.
There you go. Well, I started watching this and put it on, started watching it, and my wife, she was busy doing stuff, and then she popped her head in and then stood at the back of the couch for the first 15 minutes and watched as well, and she was like, I've got a lot to do, but I'm really enjoying this. I can pause And so, and yeah, I think that's a good indication of it, is that if you don't want to think about things too much, the film does it all for you.
Yeah.
And it does it in such a loving and friendly and fun way that there are questions and answers and payoffs, and there are some, there are some beautiful moments in this. Like Matthew, you mentioned in the film Nobody, you wish you saw it again for the first time.
Yeah.
And there are scenes in this film that make me go, I wish I could see that again for the first time, because I was like, this is so engaging and emotional and friendly and fun. And I'm going to share your score and go 4.5 as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I think just that half is perhaps I don't know that I'll go back and watch it again immediately.
Sure.
And the things that I raised earlier about the film not trusting its audience enough to know what's going on, or it didn't develop those things enough, but that it's small compared to just how much fun I had watching this film.
It is. I think that's the best word. It's fun and endearing. I love that word, endearing. It suits this one quite well.
And innocent. No.
Yeah.
That's a solid
12.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Math's good, yes. Yeah. I'm very good at it.
We'd survive well, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Anyway, not to put any stress on you. Matt, rap.
Would everyone do the things and message us?
No, actual rap.
Oh, I will not be doing that.
I'll lay down the beat.
No, everyone, thank you that's been the Trailer Island podcast for this week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. With new episodes every Wednesday. So please send through requests, send us messages, let us know what you thought.
Your brother requested this.
Yes, thank you, Lee. And I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about this. I certainly enjoyed talking about it. It was good fun. So I am Matthew. I nearly said Alex.
You forgot a lot of stuff then, but that's okay.
I'm Matthew. I was joined by
Alex.
And
Steve, shepherd of old people.
And you can find us on all the social networks, all the social media things, all the places, the beep boop bups. We got the Facebook, we got the Twitter, Instagram, some of the other things.
Don't forget about our Yahoo Answers.
Yes, that one. You can Google us. We've got a website. And
There's a Facebook message.
and all that kind of thing.
What's the email?
The email is Trailer Island. No. What? I don't know what
I say it every week.
What's our email?
contact@trailerisland.com.au.
That one, what Alex said. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple. We're everywhere. So please tell your friends, share us around, and yeah.
He really got into like some slam poetry.
yeah.
Whoa! I thought I ordered a large coffee.
Our live leak is just shut down.
Good night.
This is a Narrative Network podcast.